welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to do my November wrap up. I read quite a few books in November, not nearly as many as I did in October, and I've already talked about quite a few of them in my Tome Topple and 6 The Readathon wrap-ups, so I will be linking those in the card up above, but otherwise, let's jump right in. The first thing that I read in November was for Indigathon, and that was There by Tommy Orange. All I really want to say about what this book is that it is about a bunch of different people who come to this powwow for different reasons, and that it is a very emotional work that made me cry, and you should kind of go into it with like a bare minimum knowledge just so you can kind of get the most out of it. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next thing I read in the month of November was the 9th book in the Nocturne Fall series. This one was The Reaper Rescues the Genie. This follows a Grim Reaper whose powers are on the fritz, and so he has kind of come to not touch or talk to anyone, and a genie who has retired, and them meeting up in a situation and kind of coming together. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I was looking forward to knowing both of these characters in a further context, and I'm glad that I did. And I know that a later book in the series follows characters that were introduced in this one, so I'm looking forward to that. Next, I read The Dinosaur Artist, which is obsession, betrayal, and the quest for the ultimate Earth's trophy, which is obviously dinosaur bones. I ended up giving this one 2 stars for being about something as interesting as who can own dinosaur bones, and if a dinosaur bone is found in this country, does that country own this dinosaur bone? And all that, it kind of seemed very drawn out and overall kind of dropped. Next, I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Alex Stern series. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I don't know how the best way to describe this book, because telling you it is about a girl who is important to Yale societies doesn't scratch the surface, because it's also paranormally as well. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It's very rough in some parts and it doesn't flow the way it should. However, I overall enjoyed the story as a whole, even if there were parts that just felt like it was long just to be long. But overall, I enjoyed the story and I enjoyed the world that was crafted, and I'm excited to see where it goes, so I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Gideon the Ninth, which is a space competition necromancy book, and some of those things are not my normal thing. Minus the necromancy, some of those factors would not have interested me in this book. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I felt like the space aspects of this book were not explained if you were not completely interested in space books, and some of the necromancy aspects, if you weren't 100% into necromancy, weren't explained that very well either. However, it was probably due to the fact this is an adult science fiction book, and I'm not normally an adult science fiction reader. That being said, I did end up giving this book 4 stars because I did enjoy the competition aspects in this story, and I felt that Gideon was a character that was kind of fun and quippy. This book did leave off on a cliffhanger. However, I'm not sure if it was a good enough cliffhanger for me to want to continue on in the series. Next, I read The Trouble with Witches, which is the first book in the Shadow Veil series by Kristen Painter. I wanted to try something else by Kristen Painter that wasn't in the Nocturne Falls world, and this one was pretty popular when I was looking her up. And this one is about a town where everybody kind of is cursed, and all of a sudden the town lets someone else through who is related to the lady who kind of founded the town. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. There was just something about the writing in this one that just didn't click with me, but overall I did enjoy this town, and I'm thinking about continuing on with this world. Next, I read Chasing Space. This is about an astronaut who was also an NFL player. I mentioned this in my monthly TBR as a nonfiction book that I was interested in getting to this month, and I'm glad that I ended up picking it up, even though I only did give it 3 stars due to how it was sporadically paced. This basically talks about how Leland Melvin, basically how he became an astronaut, but it starts with how he thought he was going to be grounded and not go into space, and then it backtracks and starts telling you how he went to space. And it was a very interesting story. However, it was just the way it was paced that I was not a big fan of. Next, I read Queen of Nothing, which is the 3rd book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I don't need to say too much more because, let's be real, like, everyone has talked about this book by now. I myself gave this one 5 stars. I totally understand a lot of the criticisms that are coming this book's way about it being super short and possibly really convenient. However, I really felt that it was a solid conclusion based on the world that Holly Black has created and acknowledging the fact that her other world is intertwined with it. And I liked how it ended, to be honest, and I gave this one a 5 star. The next book that I read was From Here to Eternity, which was about basically death practices in cultures. I checked this out and it is read by the author, which is pretty cool. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was very enlightening and it talks about death practices all over the world and the author's experience going and seeing them firsthand. I don't really have too much else to say. The next thing I read was the first volume of Sandman. I read this for my graphic novel book club with the library. I ended up giving this one a 2. I really should not have tried. This is Neil Gaiman. I don't get along with Neil Gaiman. I didn't get along with the art style. I didn't get along with the story. I felt lost. Next, I read Cannibalism, A Perfectly Natural History. This is about kind of like the history of cannibalism. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I think I missed out on some of the like funness, I guess, of reading this one by reading it on audio because I know that the physical copy had like pictures and diagrams alongside it. So I might go back and revisit this otherwise. And I enjoyed the author's writing. It's just sometimes it didn't click with me. I read The Interlope Wife by Louise Eldridge. I wanted to read Louise Eldridge for Indigathon at some point this month, and The Interlope Wife was available on audio through my library, so we picked this one up. And I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It's a multi-generational story about families who are intertwined. However, the magical realism elements in it are just so like ingrained in the story that I personally could not wrap my head around it. It's one of my things in stories that I can't get, so I unfortunately wasn't fully able to grasp the story and only ended up giving it a 3, but I did overall really enjoy this story and Louise Eldridge's writing. On a similar note, I read Mapping the Interior. This was another book that I had from the library. This is a speculative horror fiction that has a little bit of sci-fi into it. This one is about ghosts and a boy grieving his father, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars because of the magical speculative fiction or elements of it as well. I really need to like be better about like looking into that before I pick things up because I am just not a fan of those apparently. Finally got to Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney C. Stevens. This was a book that I had predicted I was going to give 5 stars to, and I absolutely loved. I gave this book 5 stars. Everything I wanted. It had a great friendship group. I recommend it. I don't know how to talk about books that I really like, but I'm glad I had a 5 star. I also read The Candy Makers by Whitney Mass. This is about a chocolate making competition. It's about 4 kids who are chosen to potentially become the next chocolatier, and they're competing to like make their chocolate, and it's told through their perspectives, and you kind of learn more about the kids. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was a fun middle grade that literally made me really hungry. And the last thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to just talk about it all together, was the first 4 volumes of Chibi Vampire. I was feeling nostalgic for like one of my first ever manga series that I ever read, and so I read the first 4 volumes of Chibi Vampire. I overall gave them like between 4 and 3 stars each. I will take that with a grain of salt. If you're interested, they are overall about a girl who is a vampire, but unlike all other vampires who have to suck blood, she has to give people basically blood transfusions, and in order for her to not have bloody noses. It was a fun time to see where my original manga love had come from. Overall, it's an older manga, so it's got some problems. What about you? What did you read in November? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you saw today, be sure to like and subscribe. I normally post videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.